Hi everyone, welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about something really important that is very dear to my heart, and that is overthinking. A lot of you might relate, especially those of you watching in healthcare and those dentists, because those are the peeps that I know. I know that this thing is always going, but even if you're not, you can relate to this. You know this, you live this. We're masters of overthinking. And actually, one of the something that's associated with unhappiness is overthinking. And so it's reported as self-focused rumination. So when we are needlessly, passively, endlessly, excessively pondering the meaning, causes, and consequences of our feelings and problems, then we are ruminating. That constant chatter in the brain, we think it is going to help us to solve a problem and increase our happiness. Studies show it does the exact opposite. It not only does not contribute to your happiness, it will decrease your happiness, because we often get stuck in a negative loop of thinking. We can't find our way out. We often get frustrated, tired, and less focused, and it impairs our judgments to make decisions and to actually be clear in the mind and have clarity. So overthinking has a lot of negative consequences. But many of us are obsessed with thinking. And how do we break that loop? Because we're convinced that the more we think, the better we'll solve our problems. But that is not supported by research, and findings show it doesn't do that. So we want to talk about some techniques that can help us, especially if you're a dentist. Getting back to work at this time is overwhelming. There are so many guidelines. There are so many people, everyone's saying something different. There's a long list of to-dos. Our offices have to change. Our staff have to be informed. There is just such a overwhelming response that we need to have. And so it is natural if your mind is overthinking and very busy. So what I really urge you is to try some of the following techniques that I'm going to say to give yourself a break. One of them is distraction. Yes, it is good to think. You need to think. But if you catch yourself overthinking, you're just driving, you're just walking, you're talking to someone, and that brain is going, distract yourself. Pick up a magazine, pick up a photo album, run, get on your Peloton bike. Doesn't matter. Change something. Distract. The second is set aside time for thinking. That could be 2 hours. You determine the limit, but set aside a thinking time. And when you're outside of that time, really urge yourself not to think, because you know you're going to have time to think later. So that's another technique. Another one is the big picture. So that's a great way to break the habit of overthinking, is to think of a big picture. So zoom out of your life right now and pretend you're in outer space looking onto the world. Your time on earth is finite. And when you look from the outer, then you get a big picture, things don't seem as drastic and dramatic. So sometimes big picture thinking helps us to get out of that loop of the endless non-productive thinking that happens. And if this technique works for you, because it works for me, it's called the deathbed criterion. I know it sounds so dramatic, but it's meant to be dramatic. And the deathbed criterion is, would this matter if you were on your deathbed? And 99% of the time you're going to answer no, because so many things that we're thinking about and worried about actually wouldn't matter if we were on our deathbed. I know it's a pessimistic and a bit of a drastic way to look at things, but if you really need a way to jolt out of this negative loop and cycle that you're in, it's a brain habit. It's a neural network that will draw you into this constant overthinking. Give yourself a jolt, like defibrillator, and think deathbed criterion. How much of this happening here is going to matter, God forbid, if you are on your deathbed? So I urge you to use these tips for those of you who are in quite a overwhelming situation right now, trying to find your way back to normalcy once this is done. Give yourself a break so that you don't burn out. Thank you so much, and I'll see you tomorrow.